I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, Israel assesses dangerous new threats emerging on all fronts. Germany declares its own boycott against BDS activist Roger Waters. And just in time for Cyber Monday, Amazon finally prepares to set up shop right here in the Holy Land. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. Israel's top security officials are convening to assess the new threats mounting on Israel's northern border. The past few weeks have been a tumultuous, bloody time for the region, but rest assured, Israel is doing everything that it can to stay one step ahead of its enemies. Prime Minister Netanyahu's security cabinet is now discussing two massive developments. The first and perhaps most pressing is the growing Iranian presence in Syria. Russia and Syria have already signed a deal to create a buffer zone along Israel's border to keep Iran away. But Netanyahu has reportedly promised Syria that Israel will carry out attacks on any Iranian targets that come within 25 miles of the border. The second concern is the political disarray in Lebanon following the Lebanese prime minister's sudden resignation. And then ever more surprising, reversal. That incident nearly sparked an international proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Lebanon. Hezbollah, of course, is a major player in Lebanese politics, and just yesterday, the head of the UN even warned that a fresh Israeli-Hezbollah conflict might very well be on the horizon. Meanwhile, the dust is still settling in Israel's southern neighbor, Egypt, which just suffered the worst terror attack in the country's history. We're hearing that Israel is now sending military support to help Egypt fight the Islamic State. It's unclear for now exactly how much aid this will be, but sources say it'll likely take the form of Israeli drone strikes. At this time, 305 Egyptians have been confirmed dead in this weekend's tragic attack when terrorists bombed and opened fire on a mosque while prayer was in session. The Palestinian reconciliation effort seems to have hit a major snag. Hamas had agreed to sign over all control of Gaza to the Palestinian Authority by December 1st, and we're just 4 days away from that deadline now. But according to a top PA official, Hamas still controls over 95% of the Strip. Well, with us to explain is ILTV's Brett Allen Smith. Now, Brett, where are things at right now?
Well, look, no one expected this reconciliation to happen overnight. But obviously, this isn't exactly a promising sign, especially considering the fact that Hamas and the PA were just in Egypt for a 2-day marathon of negotiations, which now appear to have staggered to almost a halt. But maybe the most troubling sign here is the PA's civil affairs minister's claim that Hamas is blocking tons of PA operations that are needed to legally transfer power. I mean, fundamental things like collecting taxes, having PA employees physically working out of the offices in Gaza, all the way up to those big picture issues like security aid and leadership.
Well, that's kind of the domino that we're all waiting to see fall, how Hamas and the PA will reconcile the issue of Hamas's army since Hamas refuses to lay down its weapons.
Sure. I mean, given how slowly things are going now, I'd say that'll definitely be a critical obstacle for real Palestinian unity. I mean, look, by now, Hamas had promised to dissolve its governing body in the Strip. The PA says that that hasn't happened. Hamas promised to totally turn over the Strip by the 1st of December. We're 4 days away from that, and the PA says they only have less than 5%. So clearly this is going to be a process if it really comes true at all, as you'll see now in the report.
A top official in the Palestinian Authority has slammed Hamas for allegedly dragging its heels and handing over Gaza to the PA. Progress in the ongoing Palestinian unity efforts has had its ups and downs over the weeks, but now it's looking like the December 1st deadline to completely relinquish power will not be met. According to Hussein al-Sheikh, the PA's Minister of Civil Affairs, Hamas has actually blocked essential financial, administrative, and security measures required to legally transfer control as promised. Hamas, however, totally denies these claims. A senior Hamas spokesman has tweeted that al-Sheikh's words were in bad faith, even going so far as to call them part of an Israeli conspiracy against Hamas. This echoes similar accusations by Hamas that the United States was attempting to stall Palestinian peace, though many believe these are merely the excuses Hamas makes when it refuses to compromise on peace. With a deadline looming and many critical issues still unresolved, there's a long road ahead for a true Palestinian unity.
Here in Israel, only a man and woman of the same religion can legally marry after they've been declared eligible by the religious authority. So what happens to all of the interfaith binational, and LGBTQ couples who don't fit into that category. Well, joining us now is legal philosopher Irit Rosenblum, the founder and CEO of the organization New Family. Thank you so much for coming in. Now, I'm very excited to have you here because I think this is a very, very interesting topic. Now, what are some of the legal issues that couples face here, when it comes to getting married?
The huge legal issue is that 300,000 people are unable to get married here in Israel. Means that they have no benefits of a married couple. Benefits for example, social security, mortgage, etc., etc. But it's not true, totally. As a matter of fact, legally, they are unable to get married. But we try to solve it.
So talk to us, what is the solution that you have now proposed to these couples that are coming to you?
We are actually doing it. It's a domestic union card. I can show you a sample of it.
Very interesting. I'd like to see that for myself. Okay, so there you go. For those of our viewers,
this is a new method of common law marriage in a way that people are declaring that they are living together, sharing the same household in front of a lawyer. It's an oath. They have to say the truth and the whole truth. And under this declaration, an affidavit, they consider to be common law married and deserve same legal rights as a couple
married under the religious authority.
Yes.
Now, this is interesting. How many
it's
people
different
have...
from civil marriage, because civil marriage and religious marriage are the same. It's the same idea. It's the same idea.
Right, there essentially is no civil marriage in Israel now.
The religious marriage is civil marriage in Israel, but it's the same concept. The state involved in your life.
And the state approves this domestic union
card. The state approves this, but you approve yourself. You're giving yourself the rights, and the state accepts it.
So how many people have taken these cards?
Nowadays, it's 60,000 people here in Israel, and we're moving to UK shortly to do the same.
Well, because this issue that we're facing here in Israel is one that it's not unique to Israel per se, right? In the UK, you have a whole...
It's the same globally. It's the same because people don't want the state to be involved in their lives. They want to declare, and the state will recognize their lives. This is privatized marriage. This is the way to privatize marriage. It used to be ancient years ago, and now we're coming back to the same idea that you give yourself the power, and this is the idea.
Well, this is very, very interesting, Irit. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I think we can go on about this issue all day long.
It's legal and it's right. It's considered to be right globally. The same.
Well, for those of our viewers who are interested in learning more about the domestic union card, you can check out New Family online. There's a lot of information for those of us who are still a little bit confused about how the marriage process works here in Israel. And Irit, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
All right. Now, fresh ultra-Orthodox demonstrations have just erupted in Jerusalem, protesting the arrest of 11 Haredi men who refused to report for their army service. Now, police have been called in to break up the massive rally, which blocked the entrance to Jerusalem for a whole 3 hours. This is, of course, just the latest incident in an ongoing series of ultra-Orthodox protests against the military draft law. At least 150 Haredim have flooded the streets of Jerusalem, halting cars, buses, and train traffic in and out of the city. Police were forced to spray protesters with hoses after the crowd refused to disperse, and at least 36 demonstrators have been arrested at this time. This all traces back to a now landmark court decision a few months ago when Israel's High Court revoked the law that exempted the ultra-Orthodox community from mandatory military service in the IDF. Netanyahu's government has pledged to course-correct to status quo with a new law. But in the meantime, Haredim men have been arrested for failing to report for duty, or in many cases for even failing to apply for an extension for an exemption. 11 ultra-Orthodox men were arrested just last week, prompting these new, more extreme protests we're seeing now. Clearly, this is an issue that isn't going anywhere for the time being. Former Pink Floyd frontman Roger Waters is one of the most outspoken and controversial faces of the anti-Israel BDS boycott. But it looks like his perceived anti-Semitic behavior is starting to take its toll. One of Germany's largest public broadcasters has just canceled its sponsorship of Waters' upcoming concert, citing his history of anti-Semitic rhetoric. ILTV's Aaron Porras is here with more on the story.
Thank you very much, Natasha. And yeah, it's looking like Waters is isolating himself more and more with every word that comes out of his mouth. You know, not only is he losing supporters and endangering professional relationships, but he's also seeming to have the opposite than intended effect. For example, just recently, both Australian rocker Nick Cave and British rock band Radiohead came to Israel seemingly in spite of Roger Waters' best efforts after major public disputes with them.
Absolutely. Now, BDS is still a pretty strong movement, though. Why do you think Waters is getting hit by the clapback only now?
Well, first of all, I'm not really sure that this is the first clapback against Roger Waters. As I stated earlier, Waters has been losing supporters for a while now, both because of his views on Israel and because of, of the pressure that he puts on other artists, which makes them very often seemingly react out of spite, as I said earlier.
Like Nick Cave.
Yeah, exactly, Nick Cave and et cetera. But also in Germany right now, this comes at the same time as the WDR broadcaster, pushing, I'm sorry, the timing of this WDR broadcaster banning Roger Waters is at the same time as Germany fighting against Kuwait Airways for anti-Semitic and anti-Zionist behavior.
And not allowing Israelis to fly on
Exactly. So anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism in Germany is under a microscope right now. And anybody, Waters included, will be on the wrong end of that gun, basically.
Well, let's check out, the rest of the details in your report.
All right.
German residents and the local Jewish community have both been petitioning the WDR broadcaster, which runs on public funds, to drop Rogers for a while now. That's because Rogers' BDS activity against the state of Israel has morphed into an aggressive, often disturbingly anti-Semitic agenda over the years. Rogers is notorious for harassing other artists to keep them from performing in Israel, and at his own concerts, he's been known to launch pig-shaped balloons imprinted with the Star of David on them. A few years ago, the Anti-Defamation League even reversed its stance on Waters and admitted that anti-Semitic conspiracy theories had indeed seeped into his views. But clearly, this is all starting to have consequences for the former Pink Floyd frontman. Germany's WDR broadcaster has confirmed that it will completely withdraw its sponsorship for Waters' upcoming concert in Cologne, Germany. Now that he's found himself in a receiving end of a boycott, you might say Rogers is finally getting a taste of his own medicine.
Here in Israel, most soldiers celebrate being discharged from the military with a big post-army trip around the world. In fact, 410,000 Israelis between the ages of 20 to 24 go abroad each year. Talk about a public relations army in of itself. Well, that's where our next guest comes into the picture. Reserve Captain Eyal Biram is here to tell us about a new program he's launched to harness that very manpower. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Natasha.
Now, this is a very, very cool project that you guys have launched. Tell us what Israel does.
Okay, so first I want to tell you, I met a lot of Israelis, and these Israelis have a huge gap of knowledge and communication skills for speaking about Israel.
Absolutely.
And they will meet people from all over the world. They just heard rumors about Israel, but they are not prepared to speak about the country. So Israel is a program I built with two of my army friends, and the idea is really simple. I traveled abroad like most of the Israelis after the army. And I discovered that I was not prepared, and I met a lot of people, and I've got a huge power and influence of Israel image. And the program of Israel is built from three main steps. The first thing is mandatory workshops that each one of the soldiers will have before he finishes the army.
So they're getting that mandatory workshop while they're still serving to prepare them for when they travel after the army.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, they have it when they're still wearing a uniform during the last month of the army service.
Very cool.
We are working in a high collaboration with the Defense Ministry and the IDF. And the second thing is the media branch. We are building to escort the travelers when they are abroad. And the third thing is to build an active branch that will take the discharged soldiers who want to take part in the program and give them the opportunities to take part during the trips.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's so many more things they can do than just backpack, right? They can actually take part in, I guess, events or pro-Israel with the government as well abroad while they're traveling.
Yeah. We're offering them a lot of opportunities to do during the trips, and you just can imagine that in a few years we can make a huge change just by using this significant group.
Yeah, I mean, what are the statistics? I mean, every Israeli, soldier that, or I guess recently discharged soldier that goes out and travels abroad meets how many people?
So we know that we've got 400,000 young Israelis that will travel abroad each year. Most of them are discharged soldiers, and they will meet about 5 people. So you just can imagine the numbers that we can influence in a year and in a few years, and during the next time when we will want to use their meetings as a new media digital way to show people Israel image.
Well, I think it's a really, really interesting idea that you guys have come up with here, and you're already training tens of thousands of soldiers. So I'm excited to see kind of what impact this has, on the future of Israel and its international image. Eyal, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much. I just want to ask people to join us. They can find us on Facebook and our website, and they can join and support and be part of our program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eyal. All right, now get this. A 95-year-old Australian woman may be in big trouble for looting ancient artifacts from Israel, Jordan, and Egypt decades ago. That's right, we have Indiana Joan on our hands. Well, that obviously isn't her real name, but Joan Howard has been dubbed Indiana Joan in Australian media following the lawsuit against her. Back in the 1960s and 70s, Howard traveled extensively throughout the Middle East as the wife of a UN diplomat, and it turns out she regularly volunteered at archaeological digs. The only problem is, archaeologists believe she was also regularly stealing artifacts as well. A recent profile of her in an Australian newspaper showcased her extensive collection of Neolithic axe heads, Phoenician pottery and weapons, Roman coins, and more. And her collection is only estimated to be worth over $1 million. Needless to say, archaeologists are demanding the Australian government to look into Howard's alleged illegal activities. We'll just have to wait and see if Indiana Joan is going to get away clean this time around. Brace yourselves, because here comes the news that every Israeli has been waiting to hear. Amazon, the king of internet sales, is hunting for real estate here in Israel and is finally set to open up sales for the first time in the Holy Land. Talk about a happy Cyber Monday. We all know Israelis love their shopping. Hey, it may be a small country, but Israel is actually a global leader in online purchases per capita, having spent $3.4 billion online last year alone. That's a market e-commerce giant Amazon clearly wants to tap into. Now, while Amazon does offer shipping to Israel, packages have to be rerouted from abroad since there are no Amazon facilities in Israel, which usually sends costs skyrocketing and pushes Israelis towards cheaper alternatives like AliExpress. But that's all about to change. Amazon agents are apparently in Israel as we speak, closing a deal to rent a massive 25,000 square meter facility to launch retail sales in the country. The only Israelis not celebrating, of course, are local retailers who worry that the Amazon train might destroy traditional mom-and-pop stores. No word yet on when things will be up and running, but hopefully when next Cyber Monday rolls around, Israelis will be able to share the deals. A new Israeli-American nonprofit has just launched that's on a mission to reward innovation in Israel, and you're going to want to hear about their Tasty First project. Joining us now is the CEO of the Israel Innovation Fund, Adam Scott Bellows. Thank you so much for coming in and bringing wine with you. That always makes my day better. So tell us, what does the Israeli Innovation Fund do?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all, Natasha. I really appreciate it. It's actually very cool. The Israel Innovation Fund is a new Israeli-American nonprofit. We launch commercially viable cultural projects that highlight Israel's cultural edge.
Interesting. So tell us about the first project that you're working on, which involves wine, which is why we have wine here with us.
Which is exactly why we have tasty wine here from the Carmel Winery. The first project is called Wine on the Vine, and the entire point is to sell grapevines that get planted in Israeli vineyards. Very similar to the way the JNF plants trees. So wine is drank by more millennials than any other generation that's ever walked the earth. So we drink more wine than ever before.
I wonder what that says about us.
You know what? L'chaim.
L'chaim to that, right? L'chaim.
So basically the entire point is kind of to, I would say, connect young people around the world through wine to Israel.
Absolutely. Now, It's interesting because the history of wine in Israel is a very, very, very long and
Very
deep
long.
one, but people don't necessarily know that. So you're kind of harnessing this kind of part of Israeli culture that people wouldn't otherwise highlight. And you're obviously not hearing about Israeli wineries in mainstream media.
Not yet. No,
Not
but
yet.
the great thing is that Israeli wine is taking off. They're winning awards. Wineries are popping up all over the country, and there's something for everybody out there.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about some of the other projects that your fund is aiming to hit in the coming years.
So like I said, we launch commercially viable cultural projects
Right.
that highlight Israel's culture. So we have a film that's in post-production right now on medical marijuana in Israel.
okay.
We have an art project that we're looking to do that's about bringing young Israeli art to the United States through art shows and types of auctions. We're looking to do a couple of different music projects. We've been talking with a number of different artists, and we're not sure if we want to do music videos or do concerts or one thing or another, but it has to be commercially viable. And that's kind of the very big difference about what our organization is doing. We are not looking to be a donation-generating machine. We're looking to be a revenue-generating machine that also accepts donations. So something
Beautiful.
totally different.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm very happy that you came and joined us, especially since you brought this special bottle with you.
I'm just happy to be here too.
But yeah, this is very, very cool. Guys, keep your eyes out for this new fund. You guys are new. You just launched in June, right?
We just launched in June, and
Absolutely.
we're, our website is up and running, but like our nicer new website is going to hopefully be up
All
by
right, so give
January
it a little
1st.
bit of time, but now they know the Israel
Innovation Fund.
Well, an Israeli construction crew has just stumbled upon a discovery thousands of years in the making. Well, on a routine dig in the central Israeli city of Rosh Ha'ain, the team accidentally unearthed a massive, gorgeous limestone cave containing hundreds of perfectly preserved stalactites. These are some glimpses inside the newly discovered cavern. It's hard to see too deep inside, but the immense limestone walls have spent years forming into gorgeous stalactite structures. This is a kind of find geologists are always on the hunt for, but this one was discovered totally by accident. An Israeli building crew was doing some casual construction work in Rosh Ha'ain when they apparently broke through and realized there was a massive cavern beneath the ground. Rosh Ha'ain is typically known as a quieter alternative to the nearby city of Tel Aviv, home to the IDF's chief of staff and Israeli superstar Gal Gadot. But sorry, spelunkers, you can't go exploring just yet. Israel's Nature and Parks Authority have asked visitors to stay out until the municipality has explored the cavern and figured out the proper conservation and safety steps. Well, fashion is fun, but what is not so fun is the environmental pollution that it creates. Well, one Tel Aviv University student has decided to tackle the issue with a new online shopping platform, and ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh has all the details. Let's take a look at her report.
During Texan native Danielle Zakon's master's degree in environmental studies, she came across the significant fact that the textile industry is the second most polluting industry after oil. While doing her research, Zakon discovered that the textile industry causes more than 20% of the water pollution on Earth, and that 8,000 chemicals are used to produce textiles. So, with that horrendous news, she decided that she needed to make a change, and instead of cleaning up messes, she was going to prevent them from ever happening. That's where the idea for MillaKesh stemmed from. Zakon noticed that while shopping online, not many stores offered clothes that were made from natural materials as well as fair labor. And the ones that did weren't even noticed. MillaKesh is an online platform similar to Etsy that allows designers and artists to sell their sustainable and ethical products from around the world, as well as share their stories with the community. Zakon said, quote, "We're giving a voice to slow fashion. From handmade Mexican shoes to Filipino pineapple leather, we're empowering people from all corners of the world to come together and allow consumers to vote with their wallets. Each retailer interested in uploading products on the site would need to specify what ecological or ethical benefits it offers, for example, fair trade or recycled textiles. It's an honest way to show people we don't have to harm anything or anyone to look stylish."
Enroll in eTeacher's online Hebrew courses and quickly discover that it creates the deepest connection to Israel that you could ever imagine.
And here comes our word of the day. Well, a local construction team accidentally dug up a massive, beautiful limestone cavern underneath an Israeli city. So today our Hebrew word is me'ara, which is how you say cave in Hebrew. Well, I don't know about you guys, but living in a me'ara or a cave doesn't sound so bad to me. The rent is low, they're air conditioned, and hey, there's plenty of space in a me'ara. And you know who else has their very own mera? Well, Batman. Some of the coolest animals ever actually live in marot, or caves. Bats, bears, salamanders, and even some African elephants. They all call a mera their home, so it couldn't be any worse than your last roommates, right? All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a chance of local showers along the coast and a low of about 56 or 13 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow is expected to be sunny to partly cloudy with little change in temperatures and a high of 72 or 22 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.5 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.